nothing that's more fun in this business than covering a winner. But it's not necessarily for the reasons you think. Good morning. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, then please do yourself a favor and check out my daily shots of Steelers and Penguins, because they're a lot better than this. Meaning the daily shots. The content is better because it's more compelling, because there are people, players that you want to get to know, you want to find out about, you want to study what makes them tick. And above all, those two teams, the Steelers and Penguins, look, they're not perfect. Steelers haven't won a playoff game in several years. Penguins haven't won a playoff round in several years. But you never wonder if they want to win, do you? It never even crosses your mind, does it? Kind of nice, isn't it? And because of that, there's always an element of belief. There's faith. It doesn't always come back to you, but at the same time, you don't feel like you're getting ripped off or cheated or lied to or condescended to Ben Cherington style. And even though those other two teams play in cap leagues, they spend up to the cap, all the way up. So you never, ever, ever, ever talk about payroll or how much the owner's worth or where he's secretly stashing his this or that. I'm tired of it. Me, just talking about me here, with the necessary preface that I don't matter. I'm nobody. I'm one person out of 2.3 million in our market. So that's the vantage point from which I'm going to share with you that I spent the better part of this week accumulating as much information as I conceivably could on the state of this team, the sorry, pathetic state of this team, who they might be keeping, who they might be firing. And I compiled all of that into a written feature on DK Pittsburgh Sports that we call Friday Insider. It's been there forever. And I've got it all in there, piled it all in. Bunch of stuff, tons of stuff. For example, Bob Nutting's yet to make up his mind about anybody or anything. When Cherington spoke about fully expecting that Derek Shelton will be back in 2025, he did, as I had assumed, speak out of turn. Nobody over his head approved him saying that. What else do I have in there? I'm going off of memory here. Shelton's got a lot of people walking around waving knives. It sounds like he might be in trouble. Cherington's got nothing of the kind. The next anything that I hear from anybody that Cherington's in trouble will be the first. Think about that for a second. Think about the scope of this failure over these past 5 years. And think about that firing Cherington being unthinkable inside that world. There's a lot of other stuff in there, too. I encourage you to read it. Again, go to dkpittsburghsports.com. Can't miss it. It's right at the top of the site. So they lost again yesterday to the Brewers. Score was 5-2, I believe. I'd forgotten they were even playing. That never happens to me. Like, going back to childhood, that never happened to me. That was their PNC Park farewell. Played in front of almost nobody, appropriately enough. Now they go to the Bronx to finish up with 3 against the Yankees. They need to win 2 of those 3, sadly enough, to match the record that they had last season, while they're doing all this improving. And while they added Paul Skeens and Jared Jones, and still end up with either the same record or worse. But go ahead and keep all of them. Keep all of them. Do that. There will still be people who come to watch. There will still be revenue sharing money. They'll still be at the very worst solvent. And if you go and you take your family, it's a beautiful day in the world's most beautiful ballpark, right up against the world's most beautiful downtown. And I won't begrudge you a thing. In fact, there's at least a pretty decent chance that I won't even be thinking about it. I'm excited about what the Steelers are building at 3-0. Not just because they're 3-0, but because they might have their franchise quarterback. They've got a great camaraderie. They've got a great culture. And they've got our whole city behind them, not squawking about this or that, how much money Art Rooney has. Just talking football. Just football. The Penguins are about to start up on what's shaping up to be maybe their most interesting season in a while. Why? Because they have all of their living legends still here. Sidney Crosby just signed an extension. Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson. Still some great players, if older, but they've now infused a whole lot of younger guys. Fresh legs, fresh energy. We'll see what comes of it. Even as we applaud a relationship between a franchise and an icon of the sport, having such trust between each other that Sid signed that extension at way under value, understanding and respecting and believing that the team can put that money to better use by putting a better team around him. And that, my friends, that's kind of my world. I'm with those two teams, and then I go over to PNC Park. I cover those two teams. I tell real stories. I share opinions about real sports things, and then I go over there and I get that crap. And I'm really, really tired of it. Maybe they'll make changes. Maybe Nutting will fire everybody. Maybe he and Travis Williams will get together and say, what are we doing here? Do we have any concept, any clue as to how angry people are, how disillusioned people are in this city about what we're doing? And shouldn't that be more important than whether or not we actually even believe in this guy or like this guy, meaning Cherington? Shouldn't that take priority? This wouldn't exactly be some rash decision. It's been 5 full years of this. But if they don't, they don't. Then they're just going to tell you who they are. They're going to tell you they don't care. And as I've said many times on this show, if they don't care, why do you care? And in turn, why should I care? When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from JG, who says, what on earth could Bob Nutting possibly need more time to absorb? I should add here that JG is writing this after Friday Insider published at midnight. I'm not doubting you, DK. I'm just mystified that someone could be so obtuse, such a complete moron. Then again, 28 losing seasons out of the last 32 is certainly far more indication of that. In fairness to Nutting and keeping all of this as accurate as possible, he took control of the team in 2007, so he's not responsible for all of the last 32. That said, he doesn't need more time. That's just the way he rolls. Back in 2019, you might recall that he and Frank Coonley and Neil Huntington fired Clint Hurdle on the last day of the season. In fact, before the last game. Went into his office, closed the door, obviously. Clint left. Clint got in a cart, left the stadium, even though they had invited him, if he wanted to stick around and manage the last game with his players. And good for Clint for getting up and going. So when you're not wanted, you're not appreciated, why would you hang around? And at the time, it was almost universally thought that that was going to be it. And then there was, no small amount of public pressure, and I'll take at least some credit for that. I went, if you think the stuff recently has been strong, you should have seen what I was putting out back then. And way, way, way more important, the fans agreed. The fans made their voices heard. And after Nutting completed a whole lot of talks, and I mean a whole lot of talks, with a whole lot of people inside the building, even players, he made the decision to fire everybody in baseball ops. And again, when I say that, I mean the people at the top of baseball ops. Coonley decided he was going to tether himself to Huntington. If you fire him, you fire me. So Nutting said, okay, I fire you too. And in essence, they were all gone. It took an extra month, but they were all gone. That was after 12 years of those guys being in charge. This is 5 years, but it's 5 years. And if you don't understand, when you come to Pittsburgh, that you don't get an unlimited amount of time because the patience here is going to be a whole heck of a lot thinner than it will be in other places where they don't talk about things like 28 losing seasons in 32 years, then you actually deserve to get fired on that count alone, because then you're oblivious to the franchise you're supposed to be lifting, to the city you're supposed to be lifting through your franchise. Maybe that'll happen again. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe Nutting will hear the things that I've heard, study the things that I've studied, watched the bad baseball that we've all watched. And if that doesn't work, if he just wants to think of it purely from the business standpoint, maybe he can remind himself, and this is a true thing that not a lot of people know, the 3 most profitable seasons of the Nutting tenure were 2013 to 2015, the 3 years in which they made the playoffs. Amazing how that works. Those were also the 3 highest payrolls. And maybe, as risk-averse as he is, if he has people who aren't burning free agent dollars the way Cherington did this past offseason, saying no to Carlos Santana, but yes to Rowdy Tellez, then he can talk himself into, wow, hey, this could actually be a lot better. Got Paul Skeens here, got Jared Jones here, got Brian Reynolds in his prime, O'Neal Cruz is rising. If I got somebody in here who knew what the hell they were doing, I could make money. I could make more money. I almost busted into a Mr. Crab there. Did you notice that? And if he does that, I'll get interested again. I'll get invested again. As it is, I'm not. I'm going to come back and do a daily shot of Pirates on Monday. And after that, it's going to go on hiatus. It's not a protest. It's not anything 4th grade-ish or whatever. I'm not into it. And if I'm not into it, then who's getting anything out of it? I'm going to put everything I have during that hiatus into the teams in town that are putting everything into their processes that they have. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? But for now, we'll be back Monday.